What's going on, everyone? Thank you for joining us over here at Review Zero Minus once again. As always, my name is Race, and I will be your host for this little behind-the-scenes after party. So thank you for joining us, and sit down, strap in, because we're going to be going over John Carpenter's The Thing. We had just finished that up a few days ago, and just putting on a few different finishing touches right now. I have my trusty glasses once again because, well, I need them. So I have brought back a friend with me, which I saw that there was a couple of comments and questions last time about what it was. So if there is anybody out there, this is what I had going on in it. So it was a Pendleton Rye 12, which it's not bad. I mean, normally I'm a bullet guy, either bourbon or rye. Over at the office bar over here at Review Zero, we've got it pretty well stocked. A lot of different Japanese whiskeys and things like that. But for me, just sipping stuff and easy going, easy, and just trying new stuff all the time. We're always getting new stuff in. Everybody around here normally likes to have one unwind after work and after recording and doing all that kind of stuff. So it's it's a good time. Get done filming, put all the gear away, and instead of having to go out and do expensive, crazy drinks at the bar, we get to hang here, listen to music, and just kind of chalk it up the same way that we're doing now. I did get a couple of questions about what was inside of the glass as well. I know that YouTube and the rest of the algorithm doesn't really like this kind of stuff, but they're whiskey stones that are supposed to look like 308 rounds. They're just little frozen thingies that you throw into the freezer. They get super cold, and it's supposed to not water down the whiskey, which is just fine. They work. They work fine. They really just chill it just a little bit. It doesn't keep super cold. I do have spheres and cubes and all that kind of stuff for this. I even have silly Star Wars ones that are X-wings. I have some droid ones too. I've got some droid ones, like an R2-D2 one. Got a bunch of weird ones. I think I've even got some Yoda head ones, but just weird, wild, wacky stuff. I mean, the silly stuff that you think you'd want when you were a kid, well, continues on when you're, I guess, an older kid. So, today, we're going to be doing John Carpenter's The Thing. That's right. So, we're going to be sharing a few stories about John Carpenter's The Thing, other John Carpenter movies, and just kind of generalize hoopla as we normally do around here. As you can hear in the background, we're trying to do something a little bit different with the minus things. Even though it is the same studio space, it's set up a little bit differently. I have my whole desk and my command module here, as opposed to pushing it to the other side of the studio like we normally do, and then getting everything set up and lights and all that kind of stuff. And you can even see some of the gear over there, all packaged up and ready to go. I noticed I'd gotten a few comments in the last videos about it was nice to be able to sit down, and it felt a little bit more earnest and a little less like YouTube slick, whatever, of how the Review Zeros are, which is, we try our best to do things as professionally as possible, and we like the level of production that we're able to get out. It's it's fun, and it does take a lot of time to get set up and get everything done right, and I'm sure that as time goes on, the production value will go up, and we'll probably do different background things and whatever. But this, kind of a little bit of a warmer atmosphere. We did turn on some of the gas lights this time, and last time. Threw on a little bit of music because we do like listening to just soft stuff around here while we're working. Because listening to At this point, you guys have just seen me on camera, but I promise eventually you will see the other hosts and the other people that do help me work on all this, which is super cool. So we have a few different co-hosts that are a lot younger than I am, that are definitely better looking. So you guys are going to be in for a treat for that, guys and gals alike. And there's also the collaborative stuff that we are doing with different people on different channels. Like I said beforehand, we do talk a lot with the Schlock and Awe team, and for any of you that are over on Schlock and Awe all the time, I'm sure that you see me spamming the comment section or the live chat section stuff, especially when Newt and Mets go on there, or when it's just Newt, and we're typically trading stupid stories, and he's always thrown a joke or a jab my way, which is pretty funny. But hey, I'm not as famous as some of his other co-hosts, but or as better looking, or as good looking, I guess. Better looking. Wait, no. How was that supposed to go? That joke was supposed to be, I'm not as good looking as his co-host that he has. So, although I do try. I don't think my makeup is as good, but I definitely try. And I did get a lot of flack for the last few videos of my nose being super duper shiny, and as well as my cheeks and all that kind of stuff. So, the little bit of the cooler lighting has definitely helped with that. But anyway, we're supposed to be talking about sci-fi stuff. We're supposed to be talking about The Thing, which to me, as far as Carpenter's work that he's done with everything. I mean, for those of you in the know, you already know. For those of you not in the know, the filmography is pretty extensive, but like the main ones, starting with Dark Star, Assault on Precinct 13, Halloween, The Fog, Escape from New York, The Thing, Christine, Starman, Big Trouble in Little China, which we'll get to Big Trouble in Little China eventually on the review channel for Review Zero. We'll talk about it a little bit right here, because Big Trouble in Little China is probably my favorite Carpenter film, even though Halloween is obviously a phenomenal flick, and we've talked about that. But Big Trouble in Little China, it's something else. Prince of Darkness, They Live, Memoirs of an Invisible Man, In the Mouth of Madness, Village of the Damned, Escape from L.A., Vampires, Ghosts of Mars, and finally, The Ward, which I haven't seen The Ward, but I've seen everything else except for... No, I've seen everything else. I was looking at Starman, I'm like, wait, do I know Starman? And then I'm looking at it, it's like, yeah, of course you've seen freaking Starman. It's like, duh, it's got Jeff Bridges in it. Anyway. So, there's a lot of different folks that he reuses, over and over and over again in a lot of these flicks. I mean, I know that, Adrienne Barbeau is in like 3 of them. Freaking Kurt Russell is in, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Peter Jason is in 2, 4, 6, 7. And then Charles Cyphers is in 6 of them. Wow. Okay. Charles Cyphers was he was Sheriff Brackett in the Halloween movies. Wow, really 6? Huh. Well, I mean, it's not really that big of a surprise, considering that he had freaking Nick Castle, originally in there as the Shape. I would say Michael Myers, but if I do, then there's probably a good possibility that like Tony Moran will like burst out of my closet and try to murder me, because apparently only Tony Moran has ever been Michael Myers and the rest of them are just the Shape, which I disagree with. Not to throw any shade, but if you were on screen for 3 seconds and then kept that going for a few decades, and just, I don't know, it just, these are supposed to be fun. These things are supposed to be fun. These films are supposed to be fun, and the fans that that have them, yes, they take them seriously, but to be that possessive over something that really becomes so much larger than yourself and does not belong to you, the second that it hits celluloid and it hits the eyes of the viewer, it's not yours anymore. So, no need to be rude or cast aspersions on others, but I digress. Which, again, I get a little wordy and a little bit mouthy, but I don't care. This is supposed to be my time. My other co-hosts, whenever they do review Zero Minus, they can do or say whatever they like. As long as it doesn't end up on an OnlyFans, then we're okay. So, The Thing. The Thing's very interesting. So, it's an adaptation of a rewrite of a book. So, it started with Frozen Hell. The original writer retooled it, took out like the first 3 or 4 chapters, and then turned it into Who Goes There. Who Goes There was then adapted to The Thing from Another World, and then it lay dormant, and then they tried to do a remake of it in the 70s with Tobe Hooper. It just kind of got into development hell and just kept going and going and going and going. And then it eventually landed in Carpenter's lap, which was a real tough one considering that he did a phenomenal job with what he had and doing, his typical shoestring budget, type thing and making it, on the cheap for the most part. It just had so much going against it. I mean, it was, as everybody knows, it was drugged through the mud. It was called a barf bag movie, a dirt bag movie, a moron movie, a this, a that. It's just nothing nice to be said about anything. Which, for freaking Roger Ebert, which I never liked Siskel and Ebert. I always thought that they were tools. And I know that you're not supposed to speak ill of the dead, but I don't care. I didn't know them. They contributed nothing to the cinema. They contributed nothing to the landscape of anything, except for they might have been the, proto versions of people on YouTube or online doing their own reviews. But they weren't doing in-depth reviews. They were doing televised versions of newspaper write-ups. And just thrashing everything. Everything was 2 thumbs down, 1 thumb down, 1 gastric bypass down, something. It was like they were never happy with anything. It was just miserable. And watching Roger Ebert and his stupid fat face just talk smack about Carpenter and how it looked like a low rent B movie and all this kind of stuff. I mean, not only is that incredibly infactual, I mean, honestly, anybody who's seen this and you look at the effects, it still messes with you. I mean, it still blows you away. It still kicks the living hell out of almost anything that you'd see coming across, any of these streaming platforms. I mean, hell, I've seen... Okay, for those of you out there who are watching The Last of Us or whatever, I'm sure that it's great. I'm not really the biggest fan. I was given the video game a long time ago, and my good friend of mine said, here you go, Race, check this out. You got to play this game, yada, yada, yada. It's amazing. I know you don't like video games because I don't play video games. I don't play video games. It's not that I don't understand the craft. I don't understand the craft. It's not that I don't understand the appeal. I used to love video games when I was a kid, but once I hit about 12 or 13, it wasn't my bag anymore. So I stopped following it, and so I tried to play The Last of Us, and it was... I got about an hour into it, and then I just never went back to it. And then it just sat on my shelf for a better part of like a year. I eventually gave it back, and I apologized for keeping it from him, even though he had beaten it like 2 or 3 times by the time he gave it to me. And then here till the HBO series comes out, and everybody's losing their mind over it, and it's doing really well. Everybody that I talk to, everybody that I've seen online is in love with it. It's such a good story. It's a good representation of the characters, and it has a lot of, current political commentary that's supposed to speak to whomever or whatever. Uh, I'll do politics in my own time. I'm definitely not going to do them on screen, on camera, because that defeats the purpose of this being fun. And there was one thing that I was taught as a young child, and that was, if you don't have anything nice to say, then don't say anything at all. You don't talk about religion or politics at the table, and this is the table. So, but I watched the first episode. It was okay. Kind of Walking Dead-ish to me. I got through the second episode, and it was all right, I guess. I like Pedro Pascal. I think his voiceover work in The Mandalorian, because he's not in the suit 90% of the time. It's John Wayne's grandson who's actually in the suit most of the time, which I thought was super cool. John Wayne's grandson is apparently some big-time stuntman in Hollywood, and he's the actual Mando in the suit most of the time, from what I understand online. And if I'm wrong, please tell me about it. I'd love to hear it. I'd love to be wrong. So I'd love to know that little Pedro's in there doing whatever he's doing. So I just didn't get it. I didn't get a whole lot of what I saw in The Last of Us. I mean, I'll go ahead and try to keep going through to see if it gets any better for me, because I do like a slow burn, and I do like the creepy, paranoid aspects of how things are going, and that's why The Thing is still such an incredible movie for me, and why I love it so much, just because of that paranoia factor and really not knowing who to trust, what to do, and it's scary. I mean, it really, truly is scary, not just because of the transformations or any of the creature effects, which are still amazing. I mean, practical effects, still amazing. I mean, I don't need to tell you which scenes are incredible. You already know what they are. I'm not sure if this is okay to do on camera. It's not drugs. It's just one of the 0% things. Whatever, but if you are under the age of, I guess, 21 now for anything cool, don't do that. It's bad for you. Don't start. It's one of the worst things that I ever started doing was smoking. Which, ugh. But speaking of smoking, I guess in a lot of the later scenes, especially when they're burning down the command post 31. It's 31. It's U.S. Outpost 31, I believe. Could be 37 though. A lot of the actors and a lot of the crew that was on set during all those big burn parts, they were there. There was a couple of the burn bins that they had going on that were supposed to be in the background that ended up having some like really, really, really caustic, non-flammable materials that were thrown in there. So the smokestacks that were coming out of there and kind of filling up the sky were really bad. And a lot of them had to have treatment for smoke inhalation and a bunch of crazy stuff like that, which I thought was pretty wild. You know, there was an interview that that Kurt Russell had put out I think it was just shy of like 10 years after it came out. So this was like, I think like 92 or 93 or whatever. And he was talking about it, and he was just saying like how wild it was, like while he was giving like the little bit last of his dialogue between him and Keith David, that he was trying his best not to actually just break down and just start like just coughing his lungs out because of how nasty the smoke inhalation was. So that was pretty interesting stuff. But to me, the scary aspect of the thing is that paranoia, not being able to trust anybody, because that is horrifying. I mean, really, truly terrifying stuff. So, for instance, there are a lot of situations that come up in film that we ourselves as viewers take for granted, that we're fortunate enough to not be put in those situations. And we can live this kind of fulfillment fantasy while watching these, or at least try our best to sympathize or empathize and put our heads around what these characters are going through. And the sense of isolation is a real universal thing. So, it's something that I'm sure that almost everybody out there has dealt with at least once in their life, whether it was going camping with a group of friends, or being sent off to summer camp, or just going and staying at a relative's house that you don't really know all that well, but for whatever reason, like your great aunt Gladys decided to take care of you that weekend because your parents decided to go off somewhere and leave you. The sense of isolation and that sense of being in this foreign this foreign place really wears on you. And even though you're around people that you're supposed to know, there's a little bit of that paranoia and that creep factor of, I don't really know who to trust. And I'm sure that everybody on here has dealt with that at least at one point or another. Now, it's probably not on a galactic scale or an extraterrestrial scale to where you can't trust somebody because they're going to turn out to be, some sort of shape-shifting monster. But just even having some disagreements with like a group of friends and getting different stories from different people and not knowing who's telling the truth and who's not, that paranoia and that anxiety and that feeling of just kind of the walls closing in, especially if your topic of conversation or somebody close to you is, that can be really frightening. That can be really anxiety inducing. And that's where I think that this shines, is because we don't know who to trust. We don't know who is a thing and who is not. I mean, heck, the ambiguity of almost every single scene, specifically the last one, with MacReady and Childs going and, taking a pull off the J&B, even that, we don't know. Is Childs a thing now? Because he went out to kill Blair, but never got to see it. Didn't bring back any body. Don't know if he torched him or not. And MacReady himself, I mean, heck, when he comes back and, we miss him a few times, running around, got to go check up on my shack and all that kind of stuff. I mean, there's so much that we miss to where we don't know. And I understand that that's the point. And all of you are going to be like, well, that's the point, Race. You missed the point. And everybody on the face of the earth has already said this. And yeah, I know that. But I'm still reinforcing the fact that it is very different. And it is very ambiguous. And it is scary to that point. I mean, the creature effects, obviously, they're nightmare stuff. It's actual nightmare fuel. But 12 people together that you think are your friends, and then one of them snapping and turning on you out of nowhere? I don't think there's anything scarier than that in that situation. That is good. It's no J&B, but it's pretty darn good. And this is the Pendleton Rye, again, that I was drinking last time, which was... It's just delightful. It really is. Cool bottle, too. Check it out. It's got, like, all these, like, almost like, what are they called? It's not a fleur-de-lis. It's paisley. It's almost like paisley. It is paisley. It looks like the designs that you see on, like, bandanas. It's paisley. Which is pretty cool. Really nice bottle. Anyway, so I mean, it's really odd, but we've got a bunch of really, really, really cool stuff that's coming up. I mean, heck, it's been a really, really interesting. Excuse me. It's been a really interesting ride so far. With the channel, I mean, we've hit quite a few views already, which I was really surprised about. I'm still, I'm not the biggest social media fan, and the rest of my team that works on the other stuff with me, a lot of them are running their own businesses and their own, things, this and that and the other. So it's kind of hard to, really keep the engagement and all that kind of stuff. But whenever it does happen, it's just resoundingly positive, which I was skeptical on to begin with, because I know that there are so many different people that are online, that are interacting and engaging with this type of with these types of channels and platforms and people and this and that. And I know that anything from, how the presenters look, to how they film things, to what they review, to whatever facts or tidbits that they present the audience. Of course, they're going to get raked over the coals in the comments, because there's going to be somebody saying, well, actually, as they push their glasses up, well, actually, this happened. It's just like, whatever, dude. Like, I get it. Cool. Awesome. Great. Thanks. I appreciate the info. I'm sorry that it wasn't exactly how you read it on, this one channel or this one documentary or this one whatever somewhere. And that's fine. And it's not to say that, it's an impossibility that we're going to get something wrong. I mean, heck, we get stuff wrong all the time, because there's always different stories that are told about different things, about how things happen, what happened, blah 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 blah. But so far, it's been outstandingly positive, which is super cool. I'd love to see more engagement, more interaction, positive or negative. Because I mean, heck, we're all we're all adults here over on Review Zero, and we can definitely hold our own. And if somebody's being mean to us on the internet, I'm sure that we can handle it. And if we can't, then I guess we're probably in the complete wrong business or whatever. So, I mean, those are my thoughts on the thing, and like what really makes it scary for me as a whole. I mean, I know that the rest of the staff around here and the rest of the crew that helps out with all this, they have some differing opinions. We did want to do this as a double hosting. Because one of our other hosts, he is a very, very, very big John Carpenter fan. He is a huge The Thing fan. And this would have been more of his foray. I know that I did the Akira video before The Thing. And that was more my speed. That was more my flavor. The Evil Dead one was more my speed, more my flavor. The Robot Jocks one that's coming up, that's going to be that's me 100%. Which again, there's everybody that's going to be doing their presentations on here. Their movies that they pick to do their write-ups on and doing their videos on, it's supposed to be their gig. So anytime that you're going to be on here and seeing somebody host and having that type of brightness and that energy about them, they're doing it because they have a true love for what they're doing. There's not going to be a single time where you're going to see somebody up in front of the camera and just kind of going through the motions, because if you're just going through the motions, then we have no use for you there. And that includes myself. So if I'm not feeling whatever's going to go, I'm not recording that day. I'll go ahead and have one of the other hosts come in and do their recording and just change stuff. I mean, this is supposed to be fun, and the second it stops being fun, then we don't do it anymore. It's that simple. There are some great reviewers out there and some great channels out there who are absolute machines, and I'm not sure if they're doing it just by themselves. I'm not sure if it's a small group. I'm not sure if they have production company or staff or whatever. I mean, I hear things here or there about certain people, but for us, it's we're pretty low rent. I mean, we try to do our best to, keep things, fun and spiffy and professional, all that kind of stuff. I think during one of the live schlock and awe breakdowns, there was some sort of mention about our channel being slicker than a few of the other ones out there. I don't know if that's the case. All I know is we have fun doing it, and we're super duper tryhards about things. But it's been fun, and we'd like to keep doing it. Big Trouble in Little China. Okay. So obviously we're going to be doing a Big Trouble in Little China. I mean, we're going to be doing a lot of John Carpenter stuff as, the weeks and the months progress and go by and blah, 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 blah. But Big Trouble in Little China is, in my opinion, the best Carpenter film. I know that people are going to get out there and want to fight me about that because it's going to be Assault on Precinct 13, Escape from New York, Halloween, The Thing. All incredible movies in their own rights. I mean, no doubt. You want to see the best sci-fi movie that Carpenter ever did? Escape from New York. The best thriller? The Thing. Best horror? Clearly Halloween. Best action / drama? Precinct 13. But best movie? And when I say movie, I mean movie. I don't mean film. I don't mean art project. I don't mean anything other than popcorn, popcorn, popcorn. Oh my gosh, that's super fun. Let's see more of that. Movie. It's a movie. Big Trouble, Little China. Best Carpenter movie. They Live. That was like a student film on steroids. Okay? Love They Live. Keith David again. And Rowdy Roddy Piper. Like, I came here to do two things, kick ass and chew bubblegum, and I'm all out of bubblegum. Every single uncle, dad, older brother, shithead football coach, anybody on earth worth their salt has thrown that line out at least once a year. Okay? It's a good one. But movies? Yeah. Movie? Big Trouble in Little China. Between the silliness of the dialogue and Kim Cattrall chewing every bit of scenery that she has, and then Kurt Russell doing just the same. I mean, it's fun. It's funny. It feels more like an Indiana Jones, Temple of Doom type thing than a John Carpenter movie. I mean, seriously, Carpenter always has weight to everything that he does. It always seems like this real big, kind of oppressive weight that's down on everything. And then you see Big Trouble in Little China, and it's light, it's bright, it's easy. I mean, heck, it's a hamburger with a cold beer on a hot day in July. It is a perfect, fun popcorn movie. And honestly, going through Carpenter's catalog, other than Escape from LA being campy for the sake of being campy, which I'm pretty positive that's exactly what happened, which again, a lot of people aren't really big on Escape from LA. I thought it was fun, but it came out, when I was like 13 or something, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. I thought it was super fun. It was goofy. Of course it was goofy, but it was fun. And it was cool seeing Snake Plissken again, because Snake Plissken is awesome. But, there is the kind of hero worship thing. You have that, you get into these conversations about, well, who would win in a this and that between Snake Plissken and Ash Campbell. Snake Plissken would murder Ash within 3 seconds. I don't care how lucky Ash is. Snake Plissken would murder him immediately, no questions asked. Not even a second thought. But we think of Snake, and we think about this super cool character that, of course, we've seen modeled in more recent media, like the Metal Gear series. Metal Gear Solid specifically, because the original Metal Gear, for those of you who do not know, the original Metal Gear, if you look at the Konami, or I'm pretty sure it was Konami. It was either Konami or Namco. No, it was Konami. It was Konami. If you look at the original box art for Konami, and it has the original Metal Gear on it. It is literally a still shot of Michael Biehn from Terminator in his Terminator gear, to the side. He's got his rifle up and all this, and he's looking all hardcore to the side. It's literally a still from Terminator. And then they threw over here on the left some nonsense with tanks and blah, blah, blah. I'm going from memory, but look it up yourself. So that's why I say that Big Trouble in Little China was like the best movie that Carpenter ever did, because it was just a movie. It was super fun. The problem was, again, nobody got it, and it was not a big financial success. It was very much the opposite, and just nobody really got it. But the funny thing about, I mean, save for like Escape from New York, and I think Escape from New York had some problems too, but I mean, Halloween was a huge like blow up. Like nobody thought that Halloween was going to be as speak of the devil. There's actually one of our co-hosts right now that just walked in from probably doing some research on one of their things. I don't know what the heck it was, but it came through, so they don't have their camera face on, so they're not going to sneak over and say hello, but that's all right. You guys will meet them soon enough. So regardless, I mean, that's why I thought it was, I mean, Halloween was a bona fide, blockbuster. I mean, on that shoestring budget, and then blowing up to, what it was crazy. But, the rest of Carpenter's films really weren't like that, and it was these slow burns to where people gave them the accolades and the adulation that they deserved later on. And unfortunately, Big Trouble in Little China was one of them, and that is primarily what steered a lot of the larger studios away from giving him kind of carte blanche of doing whatever he wanted to do after that, which was unfortunate. It took him a long time to get back and do, bigger projects, which, admittedly, some of the later ones weren't, the best. I thought In the Mouth of Madness was really cool. I liked Prince of Darkness. I thought they were super cool movies. Vampires, not so much. That was really not. Oh, that's a whole lot of crazy noise coming in. Those are the Review Zero mascots that just came running through. I think we had them on the other show before, or on one of the other episodes beforehand. But it was very interesting to see how the studio environment was kind of treated Carpenter after the fact. I mean, they weren't as sold on him doing stuff, but he did get some pretty big chances after that. I mean, Ghosts of Mars from Screen Gems was, it had a pretty big budget. I think Vampires did as well. I mean, I know that Escape from L.A. Was a pretty big one. I mean, the only problem is it had a budget of $50 million, and then it only had a box office draw of 25.5 afterwards. So that was kind of like the kiss of death. I mean, it was not very well liked. I loved it. Like I said, I loved it, but I got it because I believe that, with Carpenter doing it and kind of everybody who was involved. I mean, heck, we even had what was it? Fonda. Peter Fonda, thank you. Coming in and chewing more scene, and he was just playing his version of himself that he was in Easy Rider, which was just ridiculous. I'm not the biggest Easy Rider fan, and it's not because again, I'm a rider. I love motorcycles. I really do like motorcycle culture, both racing as well as just kind of kind of like MC stuff as a whole. Not really, the outlaw aspects of things, because I just like jumping on a bike and going and having a good time. Vampires was another one, so it broke even. It was 20 million against 20 million. I like James Woods. I mean, I thought he was really silly in this. It was really great. I mean, anytime that James Woods is in anything, I'm like, oh no, let's strap in. Ghosts of Mars was a big nail in the coffin too. I mean, again, smaller budget. We're talking 28 against 14, and it wasn't an awesome movie, but it was still fine. It was whatever it was. I don't believe we're gonna be doing any reviews on Ghosts of Mars over here at Review Zero anytime soon. It's not that it's a necessarily bad movie. It's just I don't think that we have anybody here in our stables that would say, oh my gosh, I want to do a Ghosts of Mars review, just because that's one of my favorite movies or whatever. Because, well, that's kind of a hard sell, you know. But yeah, I mean, just as with everything, things just kind of ebb and flow. I know that this is kind of silly, and it's like what does it really mean? For any of this to be deemed worthy or whatever. And I know that there are certain algorithmical things that a lot of us, jump on and make sure that we're all working on and blah, blah, blah. But for us, it doesn't really matter. However, it has been really funny doing Evil Dead, doing Halloween, doing Akira, and then doing The Thing, like right on top of each other like that. We were seeing, and I don't know if it's just because of my own search history or, everybody else, doing research and stuff around here, but it was really odd to see the amount of reviews that were tied to those specific properties while we were doing them, and then after the fact, and then during. I mean, it's not like we had any sort of huge meteoric, view count or anything. I mean, as most of you see, I mean, we're just barely eking by, but we're relatively new as well. But it's just weird, it's kind of wacky. All I know is I would be open and I would like to do a review on the 2011 version of The Thing with Mary Elizabeth Winstead. The freaking Ramona Flowers from Scott Pilgrim, which again, that's another one that another one of our co-hosts is going to review. I will never review that movie because I do not like that movie. I think that it is. I think that they missed a mark. They missed the mark big time on it. The director is one of my favorite directors. I mean, from like Shaun of the Dead all the way to, The End of the World or World's End. Love it. But reading the graphic novels or the comics or whatever you like to call them, there was so much in there that was so much fun, and it was so quirky and so weird and so wild and so wacky that it should have translated to screen just fine. But Michael Cera as Scott Pilgrim, just not awesome. They could have put anybody else in that role, and it would have sold the movie, 10 times over. I mean, really. I mean, heck, even somebody like Zac Efron, I honestly unabashedly do like Zac Efron. I think that he's a funny guy. I think that he's a great actor, and he's handsome as well. And you have to have handsome if you're casting, roles like that. Even though Scott's supposed to be whatever, still, I think they could have. I think they could have. They could have made it work with anybody that was a little bit more traditionally better looking. That had a lot more charm, because I think that Michael Cera is just absolutely charmless. I think that he's clumsy, and the Scott Pilgrim character himself is absent-minded, but not charmless. He is clumsy in the way that he tries to relate certain feelings or ideas about things, but he is very aware of who he is. So that's why I thought that they missed the mark of the direction on how things go. And also making Jason Schwartzman Gideon Graves was... It could have been the right move, but the way Schwartzman played it, I don't think that he played it to the best of his abilities. I think that he kind of phoned it in. And Schwartzman is one of those where he's either really, really, really good, i.e. Rushmore, I Heart Huckabees, or he just phones everything in. Like, basically almost all of what he's done ever in any Wes Anderson thing ever. He's just, hi, I'm Jason Schwartzman, and I'm quirky and weird, and I'm an indie guy. Meh. I'm the drummer from Ghost Planet, or whatever. He was the drummer of whatever band. it was just like, nobody cares. But yeah, that's it's really all we got to say over here today. I mean, it was a little bit longer than usual, I guess, or whatever. But these are just behind the scenes stuff. This is just creator content nonsense. It doesn't have to do anything about anything. It's free stuff to watch on the internet when you're alone and bored. So, as always, thank you for stopping by over here at Review Zero Minus. My name is Race, and take care of yourselves, and we will see you next time.